Exactly.
Over here, not there, not there. Over, out here. Stand over there if you need to. I'm going to hand over to you now.
Okay. Welcome everyone. How you doing? How you doing? You good? Come on, a bit more energy. Okay, so I've got a assembly this morning on the importance of goal setting. Okay, and before I go into it, actually, it links very nicely with some of the other things that we've spoken about at recent assemblies. So we've spoken in the past about the growth mindset. What's the growth mindset? Who wants to tell me what the growth mindset is? Well done. Very good. And then recently we had a assembly on the importance of failure. Who wants to tell me why it's important to understand the importance of failure? Yes?
Because you learn from mistakes.
Very good. Very good. So today's assembly is on the importance of goal setting, and it links to those two other points about the growth mindset and also the importance of failure. So, who wants to tell me what a goal is? What is a goal? Yes?
It's something that you want to achieve.
Sure, very good. Very good.
And also aim for.
And aim for, absolutely. Yes?
A dream. A dream.
A dream. That's a good point, actually. Hold that thought, okay? Could be a dream, maybe a little bit more than that, but that's very good. Go on.
A hope or ambition of achieving something.
Say that again, sorry, a bit louder.
A hope or ambition of achieving
A hope or an ambition. Very good, very good. So I'm really good. So who's got a goal that they maybe wants to share then? So that's really good that everyone knows what a goal is. Uncle, come and sit down. Who's got a goal who wants to share with everyone what their goal is? Yeah, go on.
to learn your times table.
To learn your times table. Very good. That's a good goal to have. What's yours?
Get good results in my Spanish test.
Get good results in your Spanish test. Okay. Any others? Don't have to be all work ones. Don't have to be school ones. There can be other sort of personal goals as well. How about you guys? Have you got anything you want to share? Have you got a goal in life? Something that you want to achieve? Yeah?
Probably to finish the Quran by April.
Finish the Quran by April. Very good. Very good one. And I particularly like it because you put a time frame to it. When you want to achieve it by. Yes?
Learn how to do like more gymnastics than I know.
Learn more gymnastics than you know at the moment. Very good. Yes?
Become a doctor.
To become a doctor. Mashallah. Very good. Excellent. So it's great to hear that you guys understand the importance of what goal setting is. And today's assembly is just to focus on this topic of goal setting and why it's so important to our lives. Okay? So, an interesting point you just raised, okay, because you said that a goal is maybe a dream, okay? Now, I want to just ponder on that point with you, because in some ways you could say it is a dream, but I think the difference between a goal and a dream is that with a plan you can make that goal happen, yeah? Without a plan, a goal will just be a dream. It will be something that you're unlikely to achieve, okay? So these two things are very, very intrinsically important. So, I want to give you a scenario here that's just going to demonstrate the importance of goal setting. Okay? I want you to all imagine that you've passed your driving test. Okay? And now that you've passed your driving test, you want to drive to Paris. And you want to take your family with you to Paris, you want to go to the Eiffel Tower, and you want to see the fireworks that are going to be going off in the grounds of the Eiffel Tower. Okay? So how are you going to make that goal a reality? Give me some examples of what you're now going to do in order for you to get to Paris. Yes?
Drive safely.
Drive safely, okay. So to drive safely you need what do you need to drive safely? What are you going to drive?
A car.
So first of all you need a car, right? So what are you going to do with the car to drive all of that way to Paris?
Insurance.
Insurance, yes.
You need a license.
You need a license, okay. What about the roadworthiness of the car? Yeah, the car needs to be able to drive that long distance. What do you need in the car to get you to Paris? Yes?
Petrol.
Very good. Petrol. Right. When you get to the end of England, how are you going to cross the water to get to France? Boat. Okay. So how are you going to make sure that you're on that boat? Say again? You could run to the boat, absolutely. But what are you going to make sure that you? Because are you going to drive your car onto the boat? You're not going to drive your car to the boat. You are going to drive your car to the boat. I think you need to, don't you? Because when you get to France, then you need to drive on the other side of France to get to Paris, right? But to get that place on the boat, you need to book the place on the boat, don't you? Right? Or if you're going to go with the Channel Tunnel, you need to book a place on the Channel Tunnel, right? When you get to Paris, what are you going to do when you get to Paris? Sorry, when you get to France, there's one step at a time. When you get to France, what are you going to do there?
Drive all the way to Paris.
Absolutely. What's the big thing that you need to understand about driving in Paris? Driving in France, sorry.
So it's a different route.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So you need to make sure that you've planned all of your setup in your car, in your mind as a driver, to get there. And when you get to Paris, how are you going to feel when you've got to Paris?
Happy that you got there safe.
Right, absolutely. And the point I'm trying to make here, yes, go on.
You can also feel excited.
Feel excited, absolutely. And the point I'm trying to make here is that your goal was to get to Paris. Okay? Sorry, yes, go on.
It makes you feel proud.
Makes you feel proud, absolutely. It makes you feel that you've achieved something, right? And that's the whole importance of why goal setting is so key. Because it gives you something to focus on, and it gives you the ability to then plan how you're going to make that goal into small goals for you to be able to realise your final goal of getting to Paris. And then when you get there, you're going to achieve your goal, and you're going to feel very positive about that, right? So let's just say, let me give you a scenario here. What happens if you get to Dover, which is where your boat's going to be going from, and you're too late, and you've missed the ferry, and you can see the ferry sailing off into the distance? What's that going to be? What's going to have happened there?
You failed.
You failed, right. And then what are you going to realise from that failure? Yes?
Yeah, you learn.
It helps you learn. Absolutely does, yes, go on.
I try again next time.
Try again for next time. Good boy, yes. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say learn from your mistake.
Learn from your mistake. And that mistake in that situation is going to be that maybe you didn't allow enough time to drive from Reading to Dover for where you were going to get your boat. So you're going to remember for next time, you need to allocate more time, right? You're going to learn from that experience. So this whole example I'm trying to give you here about getting to Paris and how you're going to get there, it's all about breaking your goal down into a plan and then small targets that you're going to achieve through that, okay? So let's just take that example of driving to Paris and apply it to schoolwork. So I had some really great examples earlier about what people want to achieve, about getting to the next stage in their gymnastics or learning Quran by April. So let's just say there's a goal here for achieving more in English. Is that a good goal? So let me ask you a question. If somebody says that I want to achieve more in English, is that a good goal? Yeah, broadly it's a good goal, isn't it? In that obviously this person wants to do better. How could it be better? How could you improve that goal? Yes? Practice, sure. Think about the example that we've just given about driving to Paris. What are you going to do? How are you going to make it more specific? Have I lost you? Go on.
Read more books.
Read more books? So look, let me cut to the chase. Yes, go on.
Have fun.
Have fun, yes, very good.
Just try your best.
Try your best. What I'm trying to say is that it's easy to say that I want to be good at something. But the question is for me, is that going to help you achieve that actual goal? Or could you make it more specific? So for example, you could say that by June of next year, I want to get to a grade 9 in my GCSE English. Why do you think that's a better goal compared to one that just says, I want to get better at English? Yes?
Because for the GCSE, you use 1 and 2 years, and you're just going to improve in that. If you want to improve that, say if you just get 1 mark better, you feel like you achieved your goal. But getting 9 in GCSE is going to help you.
Yeah, very good. But it also, by putting a number to it, by giving yourself a target and a time, you're making it very specific. Yes.
Because you said until June the next year. So June is like a long time, and you can learn English in like about 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make it more harder for you, so that you complete your goal until June?
Yes, absolutely, that's very true. The point I'm trying to make is, by setting a target that you can quantify, by saying it's going to be a grade 9 or a grade 7 or whatever grade you're going to put to it, and then putting a time frame to it, you know that by that certain point you're going to achieve something. Just like this young boy over here said, he wants to complete his Quran by April. Okay? So what that's going to allow him to do is to make sure that when he sets a then specific target for which part of the Quran is completed by January, by February, and by March, so that by April the Quran is finished. Do you see what I mean? It means that you've broken it down into a smaller chunk to make it more specific. So, let me summarize what we've talked about, because we've talked about a lot of things here, and it may be a bit of a wacky concept about what we're trying to do, but the good thing is that you guys have all given me some great examples of what you want to achieve yourself and how you understand why a goal is important. So setting a goal gives you a long-term plan, and it gives you short-term motivation. That's really, really important, okay? So you as youngsters, at this stage in your life at the moment, if you get into this habit now, this will help you massively in the future, because it will help you aim for something. And by aiming for something, it gives you something to focus on. And by focusing on something, you're much more likely to be able to achieve it. Okay? And that's going to help you massively in terms of your life after school, in terms of where you want to get to in your life, what sort of goals you have for your career, your aspirations, all of those things together. Okay? So that a couple of points that I was just going to raise here is that the harder you work for something, the greater you'll feel when you achieve it. So that all links to this discussion, doesn't it? Around by setting out a goal and working towards it, when you start then really working hard towards that, you'll feel much more satisfaction when you realize that you're achieving those shorter term goals as you're getting to your long-term objective. And think about all of those people around you and those role models that we often speak about. I know often we've had assemblies and we talk about sporting heroes, people like Ronaldo, and all of the guys that we know, like Usain Bolt and these guys. They all have goals in life. They've all got to those places by having a goal and then working towards that and breaking that goal down into small chunks that they've been able to achieve. So think about all of those examples. We're getting to an interesting time of the year for me now, is that we're getting towards the end of this term. You've got the Christmas and New Year holidays coming, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to spending time at home with your families and your friends and enjoying yourself, watching movies, eating nice food, playing games, playing with your cousins, meeting with your family members. But I'd also really encourage you to have a think about, the goals in your life. Think about, particularly coming into January when people set New Year's resolutions, what is your goal for 2019? And if you set yourself a goal, think about how you can maybe put a time frame to it and how you can then split that down into smaller pieces and how you can discuss this. And I want to encourage you all to have a think about that and come and see us next year, first week back after New Year. I want you to come and share your goals with us. Come and speak to us. Or if you don't want to share them with us, share them with your parents. Sit down with your mum and dad, or sit down with older brothers and sisters and maybe talk about these things and think about how you can get your head around what your goal is going to be for 2019 and how you're going to make it happen. Okay? So who's going to go away and do that? Who's going to go away and think about a goal for 2019? Good. So I'm looking forward to speaking to you guys then in January, inshallah, when you're going to come back and then you're going to share what your plan is, what your goal is, and how you're going to achieve that. And we can talk about it and see how you get on with that. So my last point I'm going to raise is that, just to sum up, I will say that setting goals at school leads to reaching goals in your life, for later in your life. Okay? So get into that habit now, and we'll obviously encourage you, and we'll see how you get on with it. Okay? Does anybody have any questions that anyone wants to raise? No? Any announcements from anybody?
I haven't got any announcements. I'm just going to thank you very much for your assembly, first of all, Asim. Very, very insightful. And one of the things, and certainly, maybe not from a school perspective, but when I talk about this in school, we often talk about smart targets. Has anyone heard that phrase before? Smart targets. Okay. SMART stands for something. Asim mentioned it in the first letter in his assembly, the S. What might the S stand for? It was one of the first things he mentioned. He's there.
Smart.
To be a smart target, it's got to be, first of all, what kind of target?
Safe.
Yes, it would have to be safe, but something else. So you know what you're doing.
Specific.
Specific, okay? You've got to think of a specific thing to improve. From there, we need the M. Yakub, your target, what did you place at the end of your target?
A month.
A month. You put something you can measure yourself against. A target's got to be measurable, like the example of aiming towards your grade 9 in English. There's then the A and the R. It's got to be achievable. Now, I would argue, bearing in mind most of your age, getting a grade 9 GCSE at whatever year you are in, and this will sound a bit harsh when I say it, you're not going to achieve that yet. Okay? Grade 9 is reserved for the top 2% in the country of year 11s. It's a great ambition to have. I'll support anyone in that. But if you're thinking about a target, it's got to be achievable. If you cannot achieve that target, there's no point setting the target. You're setting yourself up to fail. It's got to be realistic. Okay? It's got to be, it's a great target to be able to walk on the moon. Okay? But currently, they're not even sending shuttles up there. So that's not realistically going to happen. If your target is not realistically going to happen, it's going to set yourself up for failure. Lastly, the T. Time limited. You've got to set yourself a time frame in which to do it. And that's where we can get, and that depends on everything else in the system. So you could say, right, I want to get my grade 9 by the end of year 11. But equally a good target would say, I want to be on a grade 5 by the end of year 9, which sets myself up for getting a grade 9 at the end of year 11. Okay? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time limited. If you can set yourself a target based on those 5 things, then you have got yourself a fantastic target and something that you can use to motivate you and inspire you to move yourselves forward.
Can I just follow up? So I'm just
You
thinking, as you were saying, thank you, Simon, for that, is that maybe what I'm going to suggest, actually, is I'm going to bring a letter next week for you, because I think next week is the last week, isn't it, of the term. I'm going to give you all a letter next week, and it's going to sum up this importance of goal setting, and give you a little task to do over the Christmas holidays, and then I want you to bring that letter back in the first week of January with your goal on it. And we're all going to sit down and we'll find time and go through those goals with each individual and see about how we can make that happen. And that goal doesn't have to necessarily be a school-specific goal. It can be a goal on anything, okay? So let me give you some guidelines, okay? And this is what I'm going to write down in the letter and give to you next week, okay? Start with something that you want to achieve. That's your starting point. What is it that you want to achieve? If it's something, it might be a personal goal, it may be something to do with something in your family life, it may be something to do with something, some aspiration that you have, maybe something to do with school, whatever it is. Find something that you want to achieve as your first point. The second thing is, find something that you want to improve on within that thing. So what your goal is, what is the thing that you want to improve on? Then you set that goal. That is your goal then. The thing that you want to improve on is then becomes your goal. The next point from that is then over to you to then put the effort into it and to do it in that smart way that Simon has just said. And then the final part of it will be to not to give up. So that growth mindset point that we talked about earlier, never give up, and also to learn from the failure. If you're going to have failures along the way, that, as we know, is a positive thing. So we'll talk about this again next week. I'll give you a letter, and then we'll cover it again in the first week of next term. But it's a great time of year to be doing it. Closing one year, starting a new year, thinking about a new year from a fresh perspective. I think there's no better way of doing that than setting yourself maybe a new goal for 2019. And let's work together and see how we can make it happen. Okay? Any other announcements? No? Okay. So you want to get into your lessons, guys? Thank you.
Make sure we tuck the chairs under, please, if you sat down.